If you have $15,000 to spend on a used vehicle, you do not have to settle for something boring. In part 2 of this series, we have a 328 horsepower all-wheel drive sports sedan, two of the fastest safest mainstream sedan choices on the market, and two 3-row SUVs I would trust with my own family. But every vehicle in this video has a specific version I prefer, and at least one major thing you need to inspect before you spend your money. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Auto Auction Maverick. For about a year and a half, I worked professionally as a vehicle buyer for a dealership. I spent countless hours walking auction lanes, inspecting vehicles, studying Carfax reports, estimating repairs, and trying to find reasons not to buy something before I committed the dealership's money to it. In part 1, I gave you my 5 strongest recommendations under $15,000. Today, we're continuing with vehicles number 10 through number 6. This may sit just outside of my top 5 overall, but every vehicle in this video can be an excellent purchase when you find the correct year, engine, condition, and previous owner. The last part matters. I'm not just buying a vehicle. I'm buying the way it was previously treated. Before we get to number 10, I want to give some credit to the dealership that inspired this entire series, Roadrunner Auto Sales and Service here in Cedar Rapids. This series started after Roadrunner made a Facebook post asking the public if you had around $15,000 to $20,000 to spend on a used vehicle today, what would you be shopping for? That question was directly in my wheelhouse. This is not a paid advertisement, and I'm not featuring or recommending one specific vehicle from their inventory. But there are a couple things about their business model that I genuinely respect. First, they are one of the few local independent dealers I've seen make a Carfax history report available through the direct vehicle listing. You shouldn't have to repeatedly ask a salesperson for basic information about a vehicle's history before deciding whether it's worth your time. Second, they regularly stock the same kinds of vehicles I'm recommending in this series. When I checked their inventory while preparing these videos, they had Honda Pilots, Toyota Camrys, Lexus RX 350s, Toyota Highlanders, RAV4s, and other practical Honda, Toyota, and Lexus products. Their listings consistently include a direct Carfax report option. To me, that says something about how they approach the business. They are not building an inventory entirely around flashy vehicles that look impressive online, but become somebody else's mechanical problem 6 months later. They appear to understand that most people need dependable transportation they can realistically own and maintain. So if you're shopping locally, Roadrunner is worth adding to your search, even when they don't have the exact vehicle you want. Their original post is the reason this series exists, and I want to give them proper credit. Now, let's start with number 10. The 2009 to 2013 Infiniti G37x. And I'm primarily talking about the sedan because that is normally where I see the strongest value. This is the wild card of part 2. The other vehicles in this video are more sensible, practical recommendations. The G37X is for somebody who wants to be sensible but still wants to enjoy driving. You get a naturally aspirated 3.7 liter V6 producing 328 horsepower, a 7-speed automatic transmission, and Infiniti's rear-wheel drive based Atessa ETS all-wheel drive system. That is legitimate performance for a vehicle you can still find under $15,000. A clean G37X gives you a combination that is becoming difficult to find. A naturally aspirated V6, all-wheel drive, a premium interior, good handling, strong acceleration, and no turbocharger required to reduce the power. It also gives this list some personality. Not everyone wants to spend $15,000 on the most practical appliance they find. Some people want something that makes them turn around and look at it after they park. A G37X can do that. Here's why it doesn't rank higher though. The problem is not necessarily the vehicle. The problem is frequently the person who owned it before you. These cars attract modifications, cheap aftermarket wheels, loud exhaust systems, poor quality suspension work, aggressive driving, and owners who spend more money on making the car look fast than maintaining it properly. I would rather buy a completely stock G37X with 140,000 miles and complete service records than one with 95,000 miles, mismatched tires, warning lights, and an aftermarket tune, and evidence that somebody treated every highway entrance like a drag strip. What I would inspect. I want to hear it start completely cold. I'm checking the oil level and looking carefully for leakage. I want the transmission to shift cleanly when cold and after it reaches operating temperature. One thing about these that I noticed specifically is that when I would be taking one of these cars down the test track at auction, once you are in the top of your power band in your RPMs and you are accelerating hard, the transmission can have a little bit of a tinny whine to it. I never bought those G37s. Anyways, I'm checking for all-wheel drive warning lights, wheel bearing noise, suspension clunks, sunroof drain leakage, damaged interior electronics, previous accident repairs, and every sign of modification or abuse. And because this is an all-wheel drive vehicle, I want 4 matching tires with similar tread depth. And remember, this vehicle requires premium fuel and will consume more of it than a Camry or Accord. But the bottom line is this: if you want maximum practicality and minimum operating cost, keep watching. But if you want a genuinely fast, luxurious, all-wheel drive sedan that can still be dependable when properly maintained, the G37X is one of the most interesting vehicles under $15,000. At number 9, we have a 2008 through 2017 Honda Accord with the 2.4-liter engine in it. The engine is a key part of the recommendation. I am not saying every Accord, every powertrain, and every condition deserves your money. The 2.4-liter gives you an excellent balance of power, fuel economy, parts availability, and long-term ownership potential. But there is an important generational difference. In the 2008 to 2012 4-cylinder Accord, those use the conventional 5-speed automatic transmission when equipped with an automatic. These are roomy, straightforward sedans, and I prefer a well-maintained 4-cylinder example over many similarly priced competitors. One thing I listen for is a loud rattle for approximately 2 seconds during a completely cold start. Honda issued a service bulletin covering a defective VTC actuator on a 2008 to 2012 Accords with that symptom. Now, just because a dealer tells you that they have not started a vehicle in the morning, there's a 50% chance that they are lying to you. I'm not going to name the exact dealership that I used to work for, but I parted ways with them for ethics issues. That dealer specifically goes out in the morning, starts their cars before anyone gets there, and lets that oil pressure build up in an engine that may have a bad VTC actuator. And then when you come on the lot and you ask them if it's just the first time this car is being started, you know, they're going to tell you that they start their cars and they check their cars every day. Okay, I mean, I would hope. But the reality is this: there were many cars where I was asked to be at the dealership plenty early and start these vehicles up for about 2 minutes to where the temperature gauge would not move, but there would be adequate oil pressure built up. And this is a famous quote from the dealer I used to work for: after you separate them from their money, there's really not much that they can do. Now you're starting to see why I left. Anyways, that noise does not automatically mean that the entire engine is ruined. It means I need to understand exactly what I am hearing and account for the repair before buying it. Now, the 2013 to 2017 Accord, the 9th generation Accord, moved to a direct injected 2.4-liter engine, and most automatic 4-cylinder models use a continuously variable transmission. I do not automatically reject a Honda because it has a CVT, but I want documented fluid maintenance, smooth engagement from a stop, no unusual vibration, no delayed response, and no whining or surging during the test drive. The 9th generation car feels newer, looks newer, gets better fuel economy, and gives you a more modern interior. But it also requires you to understand that you are buying what you are buying rather than assuming every Accord is mechanically identical. Here's what I would expect. Check the oil before starting it. Listen during a true cold start. If it's the example that I talked about earlier, you need to come back the next day and start that vehicle in the morning right away. Check the suspension, wheel bearings, starter operation, air conditioning, tire wear, and accident history, and look at the interior. A completely destroyed driver's seat, worn steering wheel, and filthy cabin can tell you a great deal about how the mechanical portion was treated. The bottom line, the Accord makes this list because the 2.4 liter versions can be efficient, comfortable, inexpensive to service, and capable of substantial mileage. But I would identify the exact generation and transmission before deciding whether a particular Accord was right for me. Before we get into number 8, hit the subscribe button if this kind of detail is useful to you. I'm not interested in making a list that simply says buy Toyota, buy Honda. These vehicles last forever. That does not help you enough. I want you to know which engine I prefer, which transmission you're getting, what problems to look for, and what should affect the amount of money you're willing to spend. That is the difference between recommending a model and actually helping somebody buy one. So at number 8, nobody's going to be surprised by this one. At number 8 is the Toyota Camry with the naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. Toyota introduced this 2.5 liter engine in the Camry for 2010. And the 7th generation 2012 Camry paired it with a conventional 6-speed automatic transmission. The 2012 version produced 178 horsepower, which is more than enough for what this vehicle is designed to do. The Camry is not exciting. It is not rare. It will probably never start a passionate conversation at a car show, and this is exactly why it works. And here's why I rank it above the Accord. I give the Camry a slight advantage because the conventional automatic transmission makes it an easier recommendation across more of this model year range. It is comfortable, parts are everywhere, almost every shop understands it, and resale value remains strong. But that reputation can also cause people to become careless. A Toyota badge does not erase neglect, accidents, poor oil change history, or transmission problems. So here's some things that are important to check on the Toyota Camry models of 2012 to 2014. On certain 2012 to 14 Camrys with the U760 transmission, Toyota documented a torque converter flex lockup shutter. During the test drive, pay close attention under light acceleration between approximately 25 and 50 miles per hour. If it feels like you are briefly driving across a rumble strip, even though the road is smooth, do not dismiss it as tires or pavement without investigating further. This does not mean every 2012 to 2014 Camry has a problem. If it means the test drive needs to, it means that the test drive needs to include the operating condition where the problem is most likely to reveal itself. What I would inspect is cold start noise, water pump or coolant leakage, engine oil seepage, suspension noise, uneven tire wear, repaired accident damage, and smooth transmission operation. If you are buying specifically from Roadrunner, they stay away from vehicles that have more than moderate vehicle damage. I also want to know whether it's spent its life as a privately owned vehicle, a fleet vehicle, a rental car, or a rideshare car. That kind of usage matters. The bottom line, if somebody says, I don't care what I drive, I just want something dependable that almost anybody can repair, the 2.5 liter Camry is one of the easiest recommendations that I can make. Just do not pay an unreasonable price or ignore a bad history because the car has a Toyota emblem. So at number 7, we have the 2009 to 2015 Honda Pilot. If you need 3 rows of seating, useful cargo area, available 4-wheel drive, and a vehicle that still drives more like a crossover than a full-size truck, the Pilot makes a compelling argument. But there is one piece of maintenance history that can completely change how I value one: the timing belt. The timing belt philosophy is a timing belt engine is not automatically a bad engine. Honda has built millions of dependable V6 engines using timing belts. The mistake is buying an older Pilot, spending your entire budget, and simply assuming the service was done. Now, there are dealers in town that will not provide you a Carfax, and when you ask them about the timing belt, they already have a word track that they have because they've experienced this situation before, and they say, well, it's made it this far, I would assume it's been done. Well, it's easy for you to assume for the dealer to assume because they're not going to be the ones left holding the repair bill. Don't buy from dealers that say that to you. Honda maintenance schedule treats timing belt replacement and water pump inspection as major maintenance items. Every 2009 to 2015 Pilot is now old enough that I want documentation, not somebody saying, I'm sure the previous owner did it. I want an invoice, a dealership service entry, a Carfax maintenance record, or another credible form of proof. And I want to know whether the water pump, tensioner, and related components were handled at the same time. If there is no proof, I assume it needs to be done and reduce what I'm willing to pay accordingly. But here's why I like it. The Pilot has an extremely useful shape. The third row is more useful than what you get in many smaller crossovers. The 3.5 liter V6 gives it enough power for a full load of passengers or towing something light. And there are enough vehicles available that you do not need to become emotionally attached to the first one you see. But what I would inspect is the timing belt documentation first. Then I'm checking the oil level, looking for active misfires, listening for abnormal engine noise. On these 3.5 liter engines, they can develop something called a valve lash tick and is very easily detectable. Checking for vibration from worn engine mounts and testing the transmission from cold through full operating temperature. On four-wheel drive examples, I want rear differential service history. I'm also inspecting the suspension, power steering, air conditioning, underbody rust, whether or not it has a trailer hitch, and evidence that the vehicle spent years towing something heavier than it should have. The bottom line, the Pilot is one of the best family haulers in this price range, but only when the maintenance history supports the purchase. If the timing belt service is documented and the rest of the vehicle checks out, I would have no problem putting my own family in one. My mom drives a Pilot. So let me know in the comments, would you rather buy a Honda Pilot with its boxier cargo area and extremely practical interior, or spend similar money on a Toyota Highlander coming up next? This is one of those comparisons where the correct answer depends heavily on the condition and history of the two vehicles sitting in front of you. But I want to know which one you would choose first. So number 6 is going to be the 2008 to 2013 Toyota Highlander. Just outside of my top 5 is a second generation Toyota Highlander, and my preferred version is the 3.5 liter V6. Toyota offered a 2.7 liter 4-cylinder in portions of this generation, but when I'm buying a 3-row family SUV, especially if I want all-wheel drive, I'm going to carry multiple passengers and travel regularly, I would rather have the V6. The 3.5 liter V6 produced 270 horsepower in later generations of this and was available with front-wheel drive or four-wheel drive depending on trim and model year. Why it ranks number 6 though. The Highlander gives you many of the same qualities that put the Lexus RX 350 at number 1 in part 1. A smooth V6, a comfortable ride, strong resale value, good overall practicality, and Toyota mechanical familiarity. The Highlander gives up some of the Lexus interior quality, the sound isolation, and luxury experience, but it also adds a third row and more family-focused layout. It is one of the safest answers for somebody who says, I need one vehicle to carry my family, handle Iowa winters, take road trips, and stay with me for a long time. Now, on certain early V6 Highlanders, I want to verify the updated oil system components were installed. Toyota ran a limited service campaign involving the VVTi oil hose on certain 2008 Highlanders equipped with the 2GR FE V6. Toyota also issued a bulletin addressing leakage or seepage from engine oil cooler pipes on some 2008 to 2011 Highlanders. That does not mean every Highlander is leaking oil. It means I am inspecting those areas instead of assuming that Toyota reliability makes an inspection unnecessary. But here's what I would expect. I want to see it completely cold. I'm checking for engine oil leaks, oil cooler pipe condition, water pump seepage, cooling system condition, suspension wear, wheel bearing noise, transmission operation, all-wheel drive fluid history, underbody rust, and previous collision repairs. Because Highlanders retain their value so well, I'm also making sure that the price is justified by the mileage and the condition. Do not pay pristine vehicle price for an average Highlander simply because you are afraid another one will never appear. They built plenty of them. Be patient. Bottom line, if I need a dependable 3-row SUV under $15,000, the Highlander would be one of my first searches. It narrowly misses the top 5 because the RX 350 gives you more comfort and luxury. The RDX gives you more performance for the money, and the smaller RAV4 and CRV can be less expensive to own. But for the buyer who genuinely needs the space or a third row, the Highlander may be the best fit for all. And ladies and gentlemen, that completes part 2 of my top 15 used vehicles under $15,000. At number 10 was the Infiniti G37x. At number 9 was the Honda Accord with the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine. Number 8 was the Toyota Camry with the 2.5 liter. At number 7 was the second generation Honda Pilot. And number 6 was the Toyota Highlander. Now I want to hear from you. Which one of these 5 would you spend your own money on? Remember, a reliable model can still be a terrible purchase when it has bad history, poor maintenance, major accident damage, or an owner who ignored every warning sign. Do not just buy the badge. Buy the history, buy the condition, and whenever possible, buy the previous owner. Subscribe to Auto Auction Maverick so you don't miss the final 5 vehicles in this series. This is not going to be the only series that I have. I do plan on having a same series for vehicles under $10,000 as well as $5,000. Those vehicles in that price range was more in my wheelhouse just because the dealer that I worked for didn't really like to sell vehicles over $15,000. Thanks again to Roadrunner Auto Sales and Service for inspiring the original question and for making vehicle history information readily available to its shoppers. I'm Riley, this is Auto Auction Maverick, and I'll see you in part 3.